Before we get into one, I know a lot of people are going to want to weigh in on, have an opinion about little news and notes related to Doug Collins that you want to share.
Well, yeah, there's something, here's what we were talking earlier. This is one of the things I was referring to when I was talking about how we've made suppositions about certain evidence based on, a lot of what I would say is circumstantial evidence. But you know how the deep state has been operating here? They haven't been releasing a lot of information. Remember, everything they release is always all blacked out. It's redacted. And they always say, oh, that's national security or that's an ongoing investigation. And that's why we can't reveal that to you folks. Well, we've got a perfect example of this. One, Bruce Orr's closed door. Sorry, there's a little bit of a rhyme there. Bruce Orr's closed-door testimony has now been released by Republican representative from Georgia, Doug Collins. And in that testimony, Bruce Orr testifies that, yes, he did receive the dossier materials from his wife, and, yes, he did give it to Peter Strzok and Lisa Page in September of 2016. Okay, so now we have the testimony confirming what we thought we already knew, which is that Bruce Orr was one of the conduits for this dossier, and it came through his wife, who, by the way, was making money for this work, putting together dossier. And do you think that maybe she was chosen because of the special access that her husband had as the number 4 person at the Justice Department? I mean, would that be a good person to hire if you wanted to get your report just slipped right to management? Not going through any kind of a normal process, but I want you to just hand this right to the decision maker. So maybe we're getting a 2-for-1 there. Maybe you buy Nellie Orr and you get Bruce thrown in for free. I mean, is that what happened? I mean, that's surely what it sounds like. But what I wanted to point out was Doug Collins released this closed-door testimony where, the Republicans like Trey Gowdy and others got to ask Bruce Orr a lot of questions. But here's the point I want to make. That testimony, the part of it that the Justice Department and the FBI said that could be released didn't include all of this information. They had blacked it all out for national security reasons, ongoing investigations, probable Russian collusion. They blacked it all out. Well, guess what? When you remove all those redactions and you read what's actually in the testimony, none of that exists. I mean, here's what I really think they're doing. This is my opinion of how they are self-justifying this. They're saying that it is a national security interest of the United States to have faith in our institutions. They've all convinced themselves that that is equivalent to a national security interest. So therefore, any kind of report or any information which might undermine people's faith in the institutions, and by the way, given how they've been behaving over the past several years, there's plenty of examples of that floating around. So any information that might undermine the faith in those institutions, even though maybe the faith in those institutions should be undermined, and maybe the institution's own conduct are the ones causing it, but they're going to say we can't release that information because that would undermine the American public's faith in the system, and that is a national security interest. So I think, and I might be off base here, but I think that's how they're self-justifying these redactions and withholding this type of information. Okay? But look, can't we all see through that? What's really going on here is they're trying to cover their own tails. They know what they did is wrong. They know it's against the law. They know exactly what they did, and they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to keep you and me from being able to figure it out. And if we can figure it out, it's only when somebody like a Representative Doug Collins gets so frustrated with the runaround that he's been getting from DOJ that he goes onto the House floor, because you can't be sued for something that you do. It's a legislative privilege. You can do or say basically anything on the floor of the Congress. So he goes on the House floor to release this testimony because he knows he can't get in trouble for doing it that way. But he wants us to see the stuff that's being withheld doesn't actually have to do with national security. So, hello, folks, the Justice Department and the FBI, they're lying to us. I mean, that's pretty sad. It's pretty sad to have to, but what else can we conclude? I mean, what else does the evidence teach us than that they're misleading us about what they're trying to cover up and why? And so I think that's pretty sad. But folks, I think we're on the right track here. Hopefully you agree with us. We're trying to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. Our suppositions are proved right when some of the actual evidence comes out. So that's why when we make a supposition like there's no evidence of Russian collusion, because Michael Cohen doesn't know about it, because Andrew McCabe doesn't have any specific examples, nobody knows of any actual evidence, and no evidence has come out. Do we actually know exactly what the Mueller report is going to say? No. But you show me any piece of evidence of Russian collusion, and nobody to date can even show one. So I'm sorry if I'm going out on a limb here, but that's why we keep saying here there's no Russian collusion. Now, history will be the judge.
Compare that to some of the Hillary Clinton conspiracies we've seen over the or cases that we've seen.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
the evidence that did exist.
That's right. There's a ton of evidence on like the Clinton Foundation, and you go back to Uranium One, and I know people kind of roll their eyes at that. But these are real issues that if you spend a few hours looking into the evidence that's already out there, that's already public record, then you will find that there was a serious cover-up of those issues performed by essentially our Department of Justice and our FBI in this country. And it was Hillary's too big to jail. I mean, it's just like when they talked about interviewing her, and you see Peter Strzok and someone else text messaging, and he's basically saying you don't want to go in there on the future president of the United States loaded for bear. Be careful what you say, because if she gets in, which we all assume is going to happen, she's going to fire you if you tick her off in that interview. So you better treat her with kid gloves. And that's what they said in the text messages back and forth. So this is all about Hillary being too big to jail, protecting the institutions, protecting the system as it exists, because the system generally serves those people that are supposed to be elected to serve us. They're the ones being served by the system, not us. We're the ones paying for it all.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And don't forget to exercise your brain at least once a week.